Imagine a world where we all wake up to the truth of who we are. A world where boundaries between you and me dissolve, and we see life not as separate individuals, but as parts of a greater whole. Today, we're diving into some profound perspectives, with insights from Dolores Cannon and Alan Watts, on what it means to wake up to the reality of creation, unity, and our true purpose.
When I've done my sessions, people go back to the source. They go back to where they began, and they said the love is beyond description. They don't want to leave once they are back there. It is so incredible. But all of us started with the source. Everything there is came from it, and it cannot exist without it. It is the glue that holds everything together. If it were to wink out for a fraction of a second, everything would disintegrate. It cannot exist without this power that holds everything together. It all started there. We were all a part of it in the very beginning. And in the very beginning, God, it's been described as a huge, bright light, a huge energy source that everything emanates out from. But what I've found in my work is that in the beginning, God was just this huge energy source pulsing out there in space, if you want to limit him by saying space. But then he became curious. He wanted to know, he wanted to learn, he wanted to experience. He couldn't do it on his own. So he exploded out. And when he exploded out, you may call this the Big Bang Theory, but when he exploded out, all the particles flew out in all different directions. Those particles, little sparks, some of them became universes, some of them became galaxies, and some of them became the human souls. When you take us back to what we really are, we are just a tiny spark. We are a tiny spark that started with God. We were sent out and told, go out and experience and learn. Learn everything there is to learn, and then bring it back. This is how God learns. He wants to learn. He wants all of us to experience. That's why there is no good, there is no bad. It's only experiences, it's only lessons. We bring them back to the source. And this is how everything was created when it all went out. And as that, if you picture that, when we're journeying out through all of our hundreds and thousands of lifetimes, where we experience every type of life you can ever even imagine. We've all been flowers, we've been plants, we've been animals. In the theory of reincarnation, we have to be everything before we're done. We have to know what it's like to be everything. On this earth, on other planets, where we are pure energy, it doesn't matter. It's all a form of expression of the source of God. We have to learn everything that's possible to learn. That's why there's no judgment. We have to bring it back to the source. In that way, you can picture us as cells in the body of God, constantly gathering information and taking it back to the beginning. And I asked one time, what does the source do with all of this information once we accumulate it and bring it back? That it uses it to create more. It's constantly in a state of creation. And everything is created through love. Love is the force behind everything. And it uses all of our experiences, all of our knowledge, everything we have gained to create more, to create new universes, to put other forms of life on it. And it goes on and on and on. There is no end. And I said one time, what happens when we get all of the information we've accumulated from hundreds and hundreds of lifetimes back to the source? We can stay there for a while because they say once you're there, you don't want to leave again. It is so beautiful. It is so wonderful to be all back together again. It's just it's a love that you can't describe, and you don't want to leave. And I said, what happens then? He said, then it explodes out again. It all starts again. Another journey somewhere else. And somebody asked me one time, well, what happens When you have learned everything it's possible to learn in this universe, don't you ever stop? Don't you ever just stay there? And he said, no, there's other universes. There's other galaxies. There's other ways of life that you can't even possibly imagine. And we're always adventurers going out and trying to explore and find what's out there. But in that way, we are all God. And that's not sacrilegious to say that. We are all God because we came from the source and we are a part of it and we will continue to be a part of it. It's a constant motion. It never stops. And when we think of it that way, our little petty problems are nothing compared to what we're really here for. To gain knowledge and information, to help each other understand that love is at the basis of everything. Because I let the people heal themselves. But I've had tapes that I played for the class where it's gone step by step how they are cured in one session. And some of them say it's a miracle. It can't happen like that. It can once you realize the power of your mind. You have tremendous power in your mind. We just have don't think about it anymore. That's why this is one of the abilities that have to be brought back to our time. We can have complete control over our bodies. We can heal our bodies. We can do anything once we understand the power we have. And we've just let it lie dormant for too many thousands of years.
Today we are expanding our view of existence. What if the purpose of life isn't about right or wrong, good or bad, but simply about creation and expansion? We're here, not to follow rules or conform, but to experience, create, and learn. Think about it. If we already knew everything, if we were already fulfilled and complete, would we still be here? Some might call it egotistical to say we're divine, that we're creators in our own right. But what if, at the core, we are all part of one universal consciousness, often described as God? In that case, our individual egos and identities serve a purpose. They allow us to experience the world from different perspectives, enabling the universe itself to expand. There is no right or wrong, only perspective. Let's put it to the test. Think about this scenario. A young boy steals medicine to save his dying grandmother. Some might call it theft, a crime. Others might call it an act of heroism. Both views are valid, depending on perspective. This brings us to empathy, one of the most powerful tools we have. Empathy is what allows us to bridge the gaps between our different perspectives. Because when we feel empathy, we're tapping into that understanding that we're all part of the same story, living different roles. Imagine if each of us could truly see the world through the eyes of others. Our experiences, choices, and even judgments would change. Life is a dance of creation and expansion. We came here not to hold on to what we know, but to dive into the unknown, to challenge our perspectives, and to ultimately realize that we're all facets of the same whole. The world is full of contradictions and opposing views, but perhaps in the grand scheme of things, it's all part of the same beautiful design. So maybe it's time for all of us to wake up, to look beyond the surface, beyond the labels, and understand that we're here to experience, create, and expand, not as separate individuals, but as parts of a magnificent, interconnected whole.
You are God. Suppose you have all time, all eternity, and all power at your disposal. What would you do? I believe you'd say to yourself after a while, man, get lost. It's like asking another question, which is, supposing you were given the power to dream any dream you wanted to dream every night. Naturally, you could dream any span of time. You could dream 75 years of time in one night, 100 years of time in one night, 1,000 years of time in one night. And it could be anything you wanted. You make up your mind before you went to sleep, tonight I'm going to dream of so-and-so. Well, naturally, you would start out by fulfilling all your wishes. You would have all the pleasures you could imagine, the most marvelous meals, the most entrancing love affairs, the most romantic journeys. You could listen to music such as no mortal has heard and see landscapes beyond our wildest dreams. And for several nights, maybe for a whole month of nights, you would go on that way, having a wonderful time. But then after a while, you'd begin to think, well, I've seen quite a bit. Let's spice it up. Let's have a little adventure. And therefore, you would dream of yourself being threatened by all sorts of dangers. You would rescue princesses from dragons. You would perhaps engage in notable battles. You would be a hero. And then, as time went on, you would dare yourself to do more and more outrageous things. And at some point in the game, you would say, tonight, I am going to dream in such a way that I don't know that I'm dreaming. So that you would take the experience of the dream for complete reality. And what a shock when you woke up. And you really scare yourself. And then, on successive nights, you might dare yourself to experience the most extraordinary things just for the contrast when you woke up. You could, for example, dream yourself in situations of extreme poverty, disease, agony. You could, as it were, work on the vibration of suffering to its most intense point, and then suddenly, whoop, wake up and find it was after all nothing but a dream and everything perfectly okay. And you would say, wow, man, that was a gas. Well, how do you know that that's not what you're doing already? You, sitting there with all your problems, with all your whole complicated life situation, listening to me, it may just be the very dream you decided to get into. If you like it, crazy. If you don't like it, what fun it'll be when you wake up.
Thank you for joining me on Quantum Trails. If you're ready to explore these topics even further, let me know what you would like to hear about. And remember, have faith, believe, and you will achieve.